Okay, so I'm Suzanne Grossman. I think I know all of you. But I direct career services at the Marxe School, and I'm with Samantha Pardo, who's the assistant director. Um, we're excited to do this event every year, and then we bring back new people who have just joined the fellowship. So we're here to talk about the New York State Excelsior Service Fellowship, and we have 9 current or past fellows, which we know is a lot, but we're going to get to everybody. And then it's more people for you to meet from different agencies. And we'll do a brief breakout room at the end. So we're going to start things off with our second year fellows. The fellowship is for 2 years in New York or Albany. And so we'll start with the ones who have already completed their first year and are well into their second year. And that is Jonathan, Peter, and Victoria. And I'm going to ask you to share what degree program you graduated from, where you're currently a fellow, are you in New York City or Albany, and then briefly share with us a little bit about your experience, what's been most valuable to you, and then we'll go from there. So why don't we start with Jonathan?
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Jonathan Rappaport. Apologies for my camera. My work camera here is not working. But I was God, 2023. I can't remember anymore. Feels like it's been a very long time. Um, in the MPA program. And I have a sort of a strange fellowship. I'm split between the Department of Health and also in the governor's office. So I work in both. So I have two jobs, um, two full-time jobs, which is crazy. Um, and I'm based out of New York City. And I think it for me, it's been a pretty wild ride. There's been a huge amount of stuff to do, and I think I said this last year actually when I was only um, sort of a few months in, but it's only sort of become more apparent. It's just like there's a tremendous amount of work to do here, and if you are interested, um, you can take on a huge amount and have a huge amount of responsibility. So, like for example, last year, like I got to rewrite a bunch of our hospital financial assistance laws, and I was mostly the only person working on it. And we're talking about like a huge statutory change. And this year there's sort of like a number of other bills that I'm working on. So in that sense, it's been a great experience. It's difficult, and there's a lot of work. But that's sort of like a plus and a minus. So I will uh, I will pass it to Peter.
Hey everyone. My name is Peter Ryan. I graduated from Baruch in the same class as Jonathan in May of 2023, and so I'm in the same fellowship cohort as Jonathan. At Baruch, I was a MPA student with a focus on policy analysis and evaluation. So I'm technically kind of in the second year fellow cohorts. I recently actually just moved into a permanent full-time position in the governor's office, which is the agency that I was placed with. So no longer formally in the fellowship, but definitely can speak to my experience over kind of the first year and a portion of the fellowship program. It was Jonathan, I'm seeing your comment in the chat. It escaped velocity. True. It was a really great experience while I was in the fellowship. I think, like Jonathan said, one of the great benefits of the fellowship program is that you can really come in and hit the ground running at a high level in many cases. There's a lot of variation, I think, in the fellowship experience depending on what agency you're placed with. But across the board, I think it presents a really valuable and unique opportunity to work with some more kind of senior level staff, get involved in state policy, state operations work, which is, as Jonathan mentioned, there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of very important work to do. And I think the fellowship provides a really great pathway kind of right from an MPA program to dig in and get engaged in that work. Without the fellowship, I think the pathway to kind of getting into state government service at this level can be a little bit daunting. They've made some modifications to the civil service system that have kind of opened up different pathways to get in state government service, but I think this is still a really valuable and unique pathway that also presents an opportunity to kind of develop a network along with your fellow fellows as you move through the program. And there's some great guidance that the fellowship program managers offer as well. So that's a bit about my experience. As few as as far as a few kind of projects that I've worked on, I'm on the infrastructure team in the governor's office. I've been involved in work related to federal funding, electric vehicle charging infrastructure, just a number of other kind of random miscellaneous projects that have come up along the way. And now we're in the midst of preparing for a change in federal administration and how that's going to affect the kind of landscape of projects and policies here in New York State. And with that, I will pass it over to Victoria.
Hey everyone, my name is Victoria. I also graduated with Jonathan and Peter May of 2023 with an MPA. I am currently at the Department of Transportation in the Office of Policy Planning and Performance. And similar to Jonathan, I am technically not, or no, I'm sorry, not Jonathan, Peter. I'm technically not in the fellowship anymore. I did transition into a full-time position through the New York Helps program, but still reporting to my same supervisor. So it kind of still feels like I'm in the same program, except for going to those professional development sessions, which I'll start with, which I think has been incredibly helpful to me. Just like Jonathan and Peter said, you're able to, with this fellowship, enter into state government at a level that I don't think is very common for folks coming out of an MPA program. And it's just, I can't imagine doing this any other way. So for me, it's just been an incredible fit. But at the same time, you are able to have that responsibility and trust, but also I always say it's like the best of both worlds. You can also always, you're new, you're young, you're fresh into state government. So you can kind of play that too, that you need the mentorship, you need the help often and support. And for me, I think though that pairing has been just really beneficial for my professional and personal development. I didn't say I'm in Albany, and that too, I really honestly love the Albany area. It's, I won't sell it as New York City by any means, but it is an incredible region. The capital region is great. I live a little bit outside of the city, but I just appreciate everything that this program has had to offer. Like I said, I truly would not have been able to enter into state government without it. So if you're interested in applying, you're in a really good place. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Those helpful introductions. We're going to move to our first year fellows who would have started the program in September. And I'm going to actually put in the chat questions. So we'll start with Coffee and then Sarah and Abigail.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Kofi Bentum, and I finished in 2024, spring of 2024, in the MIA program, and currently I'm at the Office of Employee Relations here in Albany, and I must say that it's very cold. Having lived in New York for a while, it's quite cold in Albany, but minus that, everything is going well. And in terms of projects, here at the Office of Employee Relations, I've been involved in a number of things. And like the previous speakers said, I think part of the exposure when you get here is that they have a lot of confidence in your abilities. So you get thrown in immediately. And so you have to be able to hit the ground running, which is exciting, but at the same time can be a bit challenging sometimes, but nothing overwhelming. So that part. And so when I came, I started with documenting labor-related negotiations starting from 1980 all the way through to 1995, because we've had all of those contracts sitting there for years. And so I worked on documenting and making sure that they were properly saved for different reference purposes. And apart from that, I've been involved mostly in dealing with contract grievances because part of my role is contract administration and negotiation. So I've been involved in dealing with statewide grievances from different agencies across the state, writing decisions, which is really interesting because you have to deal with different issues in relation to a public sector labor law and the various contracts that various unions have signed. And thankfully, I have a background in labor studies from my undergrad years. So that also came in very, very handy. And so I would say that this fellowship has been like a really great opportunity. I'm not sure how I would have had a foot in the door in terms of getting to this level and networking and dealing with the kinds of projects that I'm working on without the fellowship. So if anyone on this call is really interested in public service, especially at the higher level, I think it's a great opportunity coming through the Excelsior Service Fellowship Program.
Thank you. Sarah?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Fidica. I graduated in May of 2024, and I was part of the MPA program. So I started the fellowship in September, and the transition was, I would say, it was overwhelming, but thankfully, Jonathan actually works in the same office as I do. And so he was a great help to being a part of that transition. We do have a small team, so that was really nice to be able to be welcomed, fairly, just right away. And my manager is in New York City with me, so that's also helpful. Because I know there's some people that are in New York City, but their managers are in Albany, which can be a challenge. So having access to her is really great. In terms of my responsibilities, I'm working on a couple projects, but one of them is to oversee a set of health programs as part of the budget implementation process. So I'm basically a project manager, and I'm tasked with monitoring the progress of the programs and ensuring that we're on track. So I regularly communicate with program leads to gather status updates, track milestones, identify potential risks, and also ask questions of the teams. And so the goal is to, make sure that we improve our process and, get to actually implementing the programs, and then also flag any risk to our leadership team for support. And so overall, the fellowship has been really great. I'm super grateful for being a part of this program. Again, like everyone has mentioned, I'm not sure how I would have gotten through the state to the state, since it's such a tedious process. Not that this process isn't tedious, it's just a lot shorter than what we would have been doing on our own. So that's pretty much what my experience has been. Thank you, guys.
Abigail?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Abby. I am also a May 2024 graduate of the Marxe School, and I'm also at DOH. So there's a lot of us doing health policy from Marxe, which makes sense because there's a lot of health policy professors. I'm working with, it's a very long acronym. It doesn't really matter. A division within DOH that does a lot of regulatory work around health systems. And I'm specifically working a lot on looking at what is called material transactions, which is like private investment, primarily in a healthcare market. So I guess in terms of the transition coming in, I had been working with a budget organization prior to joining that looks at city and state budget and policy issues. So it's been very interesting to come in and got to see things sort of from the inside, so to speak. I think that's probably been my favorite part of joining through this program. I do work with a really small team, and like Sarah mentioned, I'm one of the people who has my primary team in Albany, and I'm in New York City. So I don't think that that's like a deal breaker or a hindrance, but it definitely is something to factor in terms of thinking about where you might want to be if you're applying and where the team you're working with is located. I think more just the logistical challenges of joining. In the case of DOH, it's like a very large agency with a lot of discrete teams, and getting to know the organizational structure, getting to know what people do within it, who to ask for things that you might need to get done. That's been, I think, one of the biggest learning curve aspects of working in state government, specifically with DOH. But I think overall, it's been a good choice for me in terms of hitting the ground running and getting to work on something that's very interesting and sort of seeing things from the inside, as I sort of mentioned before. Definitely an interesting transition from where I was before. Anyway, yeah.
We're going to move to our next group of, our final group of three, which is those who have finished the fellowship. Putting in the chat, that's Joanna, Fatima, and Robin. Let's start with Joanna.
Hi everyone, my name is Joanna Green. I graduated Baruch's MPA program in December 2021. My concentration was policy analysis and evaluation, not healthcare policy, but ended up at the DOH because that's what I realized was my interest a little later on. I was a New York State Excelsior Fellow at the DOH located in New York City. I was placed in the Office of Drug User Health's Harm Reduction Unit, working on syringe exchange, contract management with CBOs, and programming related to women pregnant and parenting people who use drugs, just to give you a little background. I guess for life after the fellowship, because that's what you guys care about. It was not easy for me to secure a role after the fellowship. I started applying and putting out feelers at least 6 months before my end date. I would definitely recommend doing this in general, but especially at DOH where things tend to take a little longer. So that would be my first tip, is to ask Kara about who runs the program, how things move at your agency early on, as I was unaware that until asking her that the DOH is notorious for dragging their feet, budget wise and everywhere, everywhere. Not to complain. That's state bureaucracy. You'll have to get used to it. I cut it really close in terms of getting an offer, ending my fellowship and starting my current position with Health Research Incorporated, which is the nonprofit arm of the New York State Department of Health AIDS Institute. If you guys are aware of Public Health Solutions, it's sort of the state counterpart to that. I got an offer for my current position 2 weeks before my end date, and another offer to stay with the harm reduction unit one week before my end date. So I would add this was um it was a lateral move. Even though I was with the state for 2 years, I didn't really get a raise. Um, Generally, I would say for because I don't want to take up too much time, but overall experience and its impact, and um start the conversation with your supervisor early to gauge their intentions for you, so to speak. I made myself known, which is how I got my current offer. Sorry, let me backtrack. My supervisor stated very early on she wanted to keep me on, um, but actions speak louder than words. So I'm not sure how much of that delay was in offer letters was due to my agency budget being delayed and how much was not advocating for me enough. Keep things in mind. But overall experience was positive, and it was a great networking experience. It really is what you make it and your circumstances where you're placed. It's a mixed bag for people. Um, I made myself known, like I was saying, which is how I got my current offer. Working for the state is not the time to be shy. Go around your floor, introduce yourself to people in your office, get involved in working outside work groups or like task force. People will notice you. And that is how you land a final, like a permanent position. I'll stop talking though.
Thank you. That's all helpful. Fatima?
Hi, can everybody hear me? Okay, perfect. My name is Fatima Ducre. I work for the New York State Homes and Community Renewal. I graduated, I think it was June of 2021 with the Executive MPA program. And I started my fellowship a year after. I was working for the Department of Education, and I wasn't really advancing as I wanted to, and I wanted to explore something else. And I was told about the fellowship, and I was a little apprehensive to join. And Suzanne was great at pairing me with people that have done the program. And I did some research on my own as well, and I decided to apply. It was one of the best decisions I've made in a very long time. The fellowship for me, as soon as I started at HCR, it again, I'm going to repeat some of the things that was said before. I apologize for that, but you do hit the ground running. I was right away introduced to, well, let me take a step back. I work in the finance and development unit here at HCR. And I automatically started pre-development, which is I was going into meetings with senior leadership about some of the programs that were in some of the projects that were in the pipeline that would potentially start construction closing in a year or two, which was a little overwhelming at first, but I already loved affordable housing. I lived in a mutual Lama. I'm on the board, so I knew a lot about just land use and I would say the asset management aspect of it. But as far as new construction and the different programs, not so much. So I just learned a lot. I read a lot. Anytime I didn't have things to do, I just learned as much as I could. I never said no to anyone. Every time they said, "Oh, do you know how to do whatever it was?" I said, "Yeah, sure, I can." And then I go figure out how to do it. So because of that, I was involved in a lot of amazing programs. One of the things that I worked on was the budget testimony of the commissioner, the F&D, well, the finance and development part of it. I learned so much from doing that. And I was extremely lucky because, well, one of the great thing about the fellowship is that you work with senior leadership, and these are the decision makers. And if you show what you can do, chances are that they would notice you, as many of the everyone said already. And in my case, I reported to the vice president of finance and the senior vice president of finance and development. I was supposed to report to her, but because of obviously she had 5 vice presidents and just a whole lot of other people, I ended up reporting to the vice president, and the vice president left. So I now worked with the chief of staff and the vice president of operations, and it was just us working on everything. And I ended up a position came up for the director of operations and data management, and I applied for it, and I got the position. So that's what I do now. I ended my fellowship 6 months earlier, but the senior vice president left, the vice president left. So it was just me and the vice president of operations and programs and chief of staff. So not too much has changed since my fellowship ended. Because I'm working on the projects that I've worked on before, but obviously now I have the confidence to speak on behalf of the agency, because before, even though I was speaking, it's like, oh my God, I'm just a fellow, am I supposed to really, because I would be alone in the meetings making decisions for the agency. They definitely trusted my abilities and what I was bringing to the table. Every time I was given an assignment, I put everything that I knew in it. I asked for help. And if I'm working with someone, oh, by the way, I'm in New York City and they work in my building, I made it a point to go and find them. And because we are on a hybrid schedule, that was more challenging than I thought it was going to be. But I did that just so that I can have that relationship, and I'm able to learn, go to lunch with them. It was a lot better when you're a fellow, because people just, oh yeah, sure, I'll have lunch, and let you know what they do. But again, I can talk about this forever, so I'll stop there. But I was very lucky, and I love where I work.
Thanks, Fatima. Robin.
Hi, can you all hear me? Yes? Great. So I was actually in the MIA program. I think I was maybe the second cohort for MIA, and graduated in, I think I graduated in 21. I don't know. Seems like a long time ago. And I was placed with Office for People with Developmental Disabilities, huge agency. I moved to Albany from New York City. I lived in New York City for 26 years, but I was ready for a change. I don't know if any of you are career transitions. I was career transitioning, so I had been in the nonprofit sector. I had been in the arts, and so it was kind of a different thing for me in a lot of ways. What else am I supposed to say? Was it easy to secure a role? It's funny because right at the end of my fellowship, and I was in a very innovative kind of, I was the last fellow to get placed. I know this, Kara told me, because I have a very unconventional background, and sometimes government doesn't have an imagination. But if you find the right people, they're going to let you in. And I believe I find the only people who would let me in. And it was a very innovative, off the commissioner's office, this new agency, but really doing innovative work and systems change and all that kind of stuff. And right before my fellowship was ending, the commissioner resigned and the agency I was in was dismantled. So I was freaking out, right? And then I got moved over to, there's never a dull moment. I thought it was going to be way more boring. It is not. And I got moved to policy and program development, which was great because I have an interest in policy. And like others have said, I had built a reputation for myself. So I was retained. They took a chance on me, and I had advocates. And the Excelsior team themselves, Kara and the people that run it, are fantastic. As long as you communicate with them, they will help you, and they will, get you where you want to be and doing the things you should be doing. So I was retained. I have since moved up. And I love it. I get to work on policy, grant programs, stakeholder engagement. I work with self-advocates. The thing with the fellowship is that it's a very well-respected program. So when you're coming in, you're going to be doing substantial stuff, right? And that really gets you seen and involved quicker than other more traditional routes in. So I mean, it's been incredibly impactful. It's one of the best decisions I've made. I love it. I love Albany. The people I work with are great. It's frustrating. It's government, but I have healthcare. I have work-life balance. These are things I didn't know what those things were. Like I said, I came from the arts, and it was a hospital. So yeah, I love it. Again, I'm coming from maybe a slightly different place in my career than maybe some of you are, but yeah, you'll know. It's a roller coaster, and you'll know if you want to do it or not. And it is true. It's a lot of it depends on where you land and all that stuff, but yeah, go for it. It's government. I think the face of government is changing a lot, and it's a pretty unstable labor market out there right now. So anyway, I think it's a great thing to embark on. That's it.
Perfect. Thanks, Robin. We're gonna talk for a few minutes about the application process. I'm sure there's so much we could say or be asking our alumni. So I appreciate all the richness of everyone's comments, and hopefully those here and those who watch the recording are getting a sense of the diversity of the placements and the kinds of work you're going to be doing, and also the experiences while in the fellowship, which can vary. But overall, hearing all positive things, which is great. I'm gonna let Marco DeSena talk for a moment about the internal Baruch process. Marco is a faculty member at the Marxe School. Marco?
Yeah, thanks, Suzanne. Hi, everyone. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to Suzanne, obviously, and Sam for putting this together, and for all the fellows sharing your stories here. I love to hear this. This is fantastic stuff. So I am, as Suzanne said, I'm Marco DeSena. I'm a lecturer here at the Marxe School. I think I'm the first and only. Been doing it since its inception as the chair of the selection committee. I work with some other faculty here, and we're joined by alumni from the program to read the application, score the applications, and select those who move on. The question I always get for this, or really any other program, but especially for this one, is who are you looking for? Right? What type of candidate? Who are you looking for? Hardest question to answer. If you look around, right? Look around at this Zoom room, and their stories. It's an incredibly hard question to answer because there is no one type of candidate we're looking for. I would say the most important thing, if you're on here and you're interested in this program, the most important thing, I say three most important things. First is that you want this program, right? That to me, and to the other members of the selection committee, that's one of the things we talk about. Are you applying just to apply, or do you want this? Do you want to work in this program? Have you researched it enough? Do you know what it is? Are you secure with your knowledge and understanding of it? And do you want to do it? That's what we really look for to come across through the application in the application process. Another thing I would say is when you're applying, when you're filling out all the Suzanne will talk, I think, about the application requirements, what we're looking for, but when you're applying, you want to apply for this program. I know that sounds a lot like the first thing I mentioned, but this is, and I would say this really about any job, any program. This is a state program, right? It's not a city program. It's not a federal government program. It's a state government program, and it is a state executive branch program. And so, if you're applying to lots of different jobs or fellowship programs, and it's not clear from your application process that you're interested in this state executive branch program, then we're going to question the application, because we get a lot of applications and there are a finite number of slots here, and they're clear on I shouldn't say they're clear, but the program managers have they want high quality candidates, and they want people who are interested in this program, not just really good people or people who are just interested in government in general, but they want to make sure that they understand what they're applying to. So I would say, for your resume, for your personal statement, your cover letter, for your application material, it's not like, I would say do this for every program you're applying to. Make sure you're reading through, you're understanding, you're listening here, and what you're putting out there reflects your best, and also reflects your best and your interest in this state program. That said, just going back to something I said a second ago about the number of candidates, we get a lot of candidates for a very I would say a single digit number of slots available. And so this is not, we're not looking for the best GPA or someone who has, the best internship, or we're looking for well-rounded candidates. well-rounded graduates who are interested in state government, who are interested in this, who are willing to move to Albany, who are open to this, as you heard already, a bit of a crazy process, right? You don't know where you're going to work. But you're clear on your interests, but at the same time, you're open and flexible because your interests might not be exactly what is matchable or available, right? So we're looking for people who are ready to hit the ground running, ready to work hard, who are understanding that their experience might not be the same as everyone else's, that there might not be one clear road or path, but they're committed to the work, and they realize that it is this is a fantastic opportunity. And it's an opportunity, as many fellows have said, and I'll stop right after this, that you are unable to replicate this opportunity on your own outside of this program. Not saying that you could never get a great job in state government or government in general and reach these heights, but to do it in this way with this cohort, and to be known as a fellow, to have sort of wear that badge, this is a fantastic and unique opportunity in that sense. So put your best foot forward if you are looking to apply. Know what you're applying to. Research the program. Understand it. Read outside of the application materials if you're unsure about state government, about the departments, about how it works. Just go forward from there. I'll take any questions. I don't know if we're doing questions, but I'd be happy to. I'm limited on what I can say because there's not a ton without looking at the applications, right? There's not a ton that I could say except be your best well-rounded self. But I'll stop there. Thanks, Suzanne. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Marco. I put in the chat the link to the application. You fill out this Google Doc, which is really just your name and basic materials for us to track. And then I put down what is required. The deadline is January 22nd. And after that point, the selection committee that Marco was talking about does an interview. It's usually pretty short. Not everybody will get an interview, just so you know that. And then those are usually on a Friday in February. We have to turn over our nominees by March 1st. And then in this sort of March-April period, you will be interviewed by the fellowship folks for everyone we nominate. Somewhere along the line, once the budget comes through from the state, there is now a spreadsheet that they provide, but they cannot provide that in advance. But once their spreadsheet comes along, it will tell you the placements so that when you have that interview, you're going to prep with that spreadsheet placements in mind because they'll want to hear what you think is the match.
Can I just jump in for a second,
yeah,
Suzanne?
sure.
I'm so sorry. I just want to, because I should have said a lot of that. I'm sorry I didn't. So thank you for picking me up. But Suzanne has just mentioned 2 interviews, right? So there's the this is a unique program in that the program sort of, I'm sorry, Suzanne, to take up this time, but they sort of farm out the selection of the candidates to us, to Baruch, to the committee. They do this for all the schools. All right, so they don't run it, so they don't intake the applicants and go through it. They take them from us. Have they rejected applicants from us in the past? Yes, but it's super rare. So they generally, we have a pretty rigorous, even though it's brief, it's pretty intense, rigorous application, and the interview process here on our end, and then we provide the applicants and so it's a kind of 2 stages or even more in that sense, right? You go through the application process with us, with the Baruch Marxe School Selection Committee. We then select those candidates to go further. The interview that Suzanne just mentioned, the second one, right, with the spreadsheets and that is for placement purposes, right? So the program managers, once we're done, we're done. Once we select our candidates and we have that number, we hand it off. We have no influence over where you're placed or any of the timeline or that stuff. Once we hand it off in that March 1st date, our hands, we're done with it. The program takes over from there, and then they interview to see what your interests are and the match, right? So they try to match you with the best fit, but also what the state needs and your skills and qualifications and that kind of stuff. So that happens after us, outside of us, on their end. So there's the application to become I call them candidates, right? Because you're not yet fellows, because the state still retains that right to sort of finalize that. But the candidates, the fellow candidates after us, and then you go on that journey with the matching with the state. So there are 2 interviews, one for the actual application to get to be the candidate fellow, and then to be placement with the state. Thanks, Suzanne.
Thanks for clarifying all that. We're going to do breakout rooms now because I want to maximize our alumni and their time, because some may have to leave. And then I know I can hang around for other questions. So Sam has set up the breakout rooms, and you'll just go to the one you're assigned to. I think she put people in the groups that we did the earlier speaking in, and you may be the only student there because we have a small number of students attending and people accessing the recording later. So, maximize this time. It's a good networking opportunity at a bare minimum, and ask your questions. Find out what the experience was for our alumni, and Sam has opened the rooms. So go ahead and join, and we'll meet you back here in about 10 minutes. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you had good conversations. It's almost 1:30. I know some of the alumni need to depart. So I just want to thank everybody. Please join me in thanking our guests, our alumni panelists today. Appreciate all of you being here and sharing your wisdom. And we're excited for you to apply too. Thanks, Gabrielle. I'm going to hang around for about 5 minutes after, because I know we didn't have time to ask questions as a group, or if you want to ask questions about the process more, or if you want to make individual appointments with me and Sam. I will say we don't review personal statements typically, but we will help with resumes. So those are the things. There, personal statement wise, there is a workshop recorded, and there's the writing center. So we've done some things around helping with the personal statements in that way, but I'm happy to answer more questions about that. So thanks, everybody. I'm going to turn off the recording, and have a great day for those who are heading out now. And we look forward to being in touch and receiving applications from students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.